So we're going to work this week similarly to last week. We will begin with our flipping exercise that we were playing with. I want that to get a little bit more into the regularity of people's practice before we introduce it more frequently into the flow, and then it'll just be something that we talk about. And until then, we're going to do it as a separate piece in the beginning of class before we get into our flow. Then we'll get into our flow. We're going to refine some of the pieces that we played with last week in our thread the needle or eye of the needle. Thread the needle. We decided thread the needle.
Yeah, we decided
thread the needle. We're going to look at a few refinements there and maybe finish it off. And then if we do and have abundant time, we have more stuff that's fun to play with afterwards. And then, as always, let us know as you have questions. This week, I don't think we have any brand new people, which means that I'm going to go over the preamble quickly. Number one, stay safe, be conservative. Don't try to do the most difficult things. Make sure that your area is nice and clear of obstacles so that we don't injure ourselves as we come to the ground. And be nice to each other, compassionate. Make sure that we're speaking towards solutions and that we are looking to do whatever we can to make this process easier for our partners, not just ourselves. Let's see. Ruben, is your head okay? That's just for sweat? Okay, good. Okay, cool. Awesome. Just making sure that wasn't a bandage across your head. Awesome. Excellent. Just if there's like a head injury, like, I fucked up and Karam hit me in the head with a shovel, and just something good to know about. As it happens, earlier today, first Chris hit me in the head with a shovel, and then I fucked up again, and Sam doubled down and hit me in the head again. So now it's at least even on both sides, and so it feels pretty good. The first piece that we're going to look at, do you want to fly? Want to fly that on, Chris? We're going to look at that piece where we are in front plank on hands. The flyer, and we'll show this in detail in a moment, but the flyer is going to give the hook around the pinky edge of the base's foot and flip all the way to that front plank on hands again. So the base does bring their legs over the shoulders. Chris's hips are off the ground here, and then Chris pushes that weight back in the arms toward the hips so that we're trying to not base this with our hips off the ground as the flyer's bringing weight into it. And then as Sam grips onto the outer edge of the feet, pulls into the inversion, and might even have to give a little elbow bend if the head is scraping the torso a little bit as we're going through that inversion up and around back to our front plank on hands. Sam, will you show us what that hand position is? Show the camera what that hand position is when we are trying to grip the base's feet. And we want to make sure that we don't rip the toes of the base off here.
That'd be nice.
So I'm going around the base's feet and bringing my fingers towards the inside so that I'm holding the outside edge of the base's feet pretty close to the toes, but ideally not on the toes.
Yeah. Any questions? All right, so I want us to do somewhere between 3 and 30 of those. And we'll just take a few minutes and calibrate that before we get into our flow. Let us know if you have questions. Everyone should know our hand signals, but if you don't know the hand signal, just cover up your camera and we'll go over them again. 3, 2, 1.
How do you slow it down at the end of the rotation to expose the hips for the base to grab without the feet slamming on the ground?
So the nice thing is that when we start to go into the inversion, we have this moment of float. And from there, as we come down, it's what is coming down first. If the feet are coming down before the hips, it's going to come down fast. What we're trying to do is get the legs to be light so that the center of the body can move slowly. And so if the feet are reaching toward the ceiling, as the hips are going down, we can slow that descent down.
So as a flyer, I'm bringing my arms up towards my shoulders with these like hook hands, and then coming under the base's front of the foot around to the outside.
So that's the grip.
Right there, how do you bring your knees through?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, not my knees.
You long-legged beaut.
I'm pushing my arms up. I'm lifting my legs as much as possible, and I'm still not letting go of the torso until here. And I got high, so I'm going to bring it down. Front plank with a range of motion. That range of motion is largely that we twist and then bend and then extend and twist. Flyers can start to make some movements also as they want. And then we can also work into our side stars and get more rotation out of each individual hip, knee, and ankle. Bases can use their free leg to get more rotation out of the balancing leg by bringing a foot to the shoulder to rotate internally with the balancing leg and to hook on the flyer's leg to help externally rotate. Excellent, excellent. And then we will go front plank, shoulder stand. We're going to hold this shoulder stand for a moment, so get comfortable here. In this first shoulder stand, I'd love to see a bases range of motion. So bases, we can press and extend. We can let our elbows bend until our flyer's head hits our torso. We can also do this off to the side if you feel stable enough that this can move to the side of the base's torso. And you can do this, it will asymmetrically bring the weight a little bit more into one arm than the other. And we can find rotations and get those twists in. Excellent. And then front plank. From front plank, we'll go reverse shoulder stand and then back to front plank. And then we'll do that in the other direction. Front plank, reverse shoulder stand, front plank. And then we're going to go front plank to reverse shoulder stand one more time. We'll hold this reverse shoulder stand. And flyers, pike your hips until your toes touch your base's nose, and then pike back up. And if you don't reach your base's nose, that's okay. Go as low as you can while maintaining stability, and then pike back up. So we're just looking for pike down, pike up. For all the times you were kicking sand in the side of the head earlier. And then we're going to land in a back plank. Excellent. From back plank, we're going to go shoulder stand to back plank. Some of us are still doing this more through a side star position, which is fine, but eventually we'll be doing this coming off of both feet at the same time. We're going to do that in both directions, from a back plank, shoulder stand, back plank. Nice work, Jay, Danielle. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Great. And then from there, we will go from a back plank to a star. And as we do this, flyers, keep your eyeballs on your toes the entire time. Hold your plank position. Don't go into a back arch. We want to keep the eyes on the toes. If you lose sight of them, you've lost your line. From star, we're going to rotate to front plank and back to star and back to front plank. And do this a bunch of times. There's a number of ways that we can do this. We can go in a corkscrew. We can do this in a duchy. We can do a boomerang. We can do a piston, a meteor. There's a number of ways that we can get from front plank to star to front plank. And if you happen to only have one of those transitions in your wheelhouse, it's fine to just do a bunch of them. Or start to explore more. Janice Bryce, anything with a reverse hand-to-hand grip will be more difficult. Nothing wrong with it, but a lot more difficult. Let's meet in front plank. Those of us in Seattle, we call this front plank, shoulder stand, reverse back plank, reverse low foot to hand, a front plank. So everyone can do that a few times, front plank, shoulder stand, reverse back plank, reverse low foot to hand, a front plank. And then others know it as a Catherine's wheel. I want to retract my statement about Seattle. There are plenty of you outside of Seattle that knew it just from its description rather than its name. I love you as much as you love me. Oh, maybe more. Some of you may loathe me. And next time we meet in the front plank, we'll take a hand-to-hand grip and rotate back up to start. From start, we will go free, if free start is your practice. In your free start, if it feels comfortable, flyers, bring hands up to the hips. And then flyers, if that feels comfortable, some of us may also play with our arms behind our back, holding onto our opposite elbows, forearms or wrists. And then we're going to go through a range of motion with our legs, flyers. So flyers, that's going to start off in a straight position with our legs together. From there, we're going to bring our legs to a tuck. From tuck to a pike. Pike opens up into a straddle, and straddle then goes to straight. And we'll do that a few times, from tuck, pike, straddle, straight, tuck, pike, straddle, straight. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And then flyers, find a nice stable position, whatever leg position in your free start feels stable. And bases, bend your knees. See how low you can bend the knees while maintaining balance. And if it starts to feel unstable, pause and start to extend back from there. Wow, Nika, that was sick. Excellent. All right, now flyers, let's find ourselves in a stag. So it's basically like one leg is a tuck, one leg is a pike. Knees are together. And then let's switch, kick switch our legs so that one bends while the other extends, and then the other bends while the other extends. So go back and forth. Kick switch this a few times. See if we can maintain a nice stable line, flyers, all the way from our hips as flyers to our bases hips. moving just at the knees and seeing how little that can affect the balance. From there, we will transition to a foot to hand. Foot to hand stands up. Excellent. Flyers, first thing we're going to do here, and this foot to hand is going to be a little bit longer today. First thing we're going to do here, Flyers, is we're going to keep our knees straight and see if we can touch our toes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And then from there, we're going to stand back up. I'm going to give an option here in a minute for something from there, but right now we'll stand back up. And then let's transition to bases extending and bending their elbows one at a time, or both at the same time. So you can press this or you can stair stepper it. Yes, don't forget to chalk up, for those of you that need to chalk up. Excellent. And then bases will extend the elbows. Flyers are going to come to a squat. Flyers lean to one side, and the other leg arm connection goes all the way to extended knee, extended elbow, and then come back into foot to hand squat. Flyers will shift to the second side, and base flyers will extend the knee elbow on the second side. Excellent, excellent, excellent. For those of you that feel very confident in your press, that's very stable, Flyers, you can also hold your toes with straight knees, and bases can press that. From there, we're also going to work our pistons. Pistons are the complicated one. That's where we're going to have one elbow extended, one elbow bent, and we will transition that the other one extends while the other elbow hits the ground, and we try to do this at the same time. Weight is in both of the legs equally for this one, and the tension is constant. So this one is complicated and generally quite a burner. Callan, you okay? Okay, cool. After we've done our pistons and we've done our squat extensions and we've done our stair steppers and we've done our presses and we've done our swivels and we've done our folds, we can then go into star. Flyers, we bring our arms behind our back and we bring our shoulders to feet, ideally without touching the base's legs with our hands. Anyone that is touching their base's legs right now, good job. Way to stay safe. Excellent. From there, we will take a hand-to-hand grip. That hand-to-hand grip then takes, and Davide, Natasha, this is that moment, and then I will also say Davide, Natasha, and anyone else that has the weight balanced in star by the toes, take the time right now and step those feet forward and really bring the weight all the way back by the heels so that you have abundant of support for the transitions. And now we will step to a reverse front plank. So Flyers, look through the base's legs away from their head, bring the hips forward and let the feet arc up as the hips come down. And then we're going to reverse that, where we're going to lead with the feet and peel our way back into star. That's good. And Davide and Natasha, if you remind me after this flow, let's go over some of the technique for that. That ended up working really well, but let's get that set up well. Let's do it again. This time, if you want, you can press down to a baby hand-to-hand, or you can press through an extended hand-to-hand. or you can step it again. So step it, float it, press it as you desire from star to reverse front plank. And then this time we're going to rotate and go to a reverse star. In reverse star, we're going to play with our monolimb reverse stars. Monolimb reverse stars are going to be that we will attempt to release the inside arm and then regrip it, and then release the outside arm and regrip it. Really good, John and Layla. Intelligent progressions. I'm a fan. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Give it another moment. Some of us are still working on our second side. No rush yet. Good save, Ben. It's a little scary. Nice work. Yes, Cassie. Well done, well done, well done. Okay, from reverse star, we're going to come down to a croc. From that croc, let's spin it to a star. If you're in star, be patient. We're letting people catch up. From star, if you're not there, go ahead, just hop on in, star. We're going to step to a potentially uncomfortable position, so I do want there to be a little bit of sensitivity to the flyer's arms here, bases. Keep those feet nice and soft and listen to what your flyers are asking here. Really aim for the elbow crease. We're gonna step from star down to a croc, and it's gonna end up with the toe side to the belly. So if you step straight down, flyers, bases, you'll have a little bit of an internal rotation as your foot will be somewhere between neutral and internally rotated when you hit the elbow crease. Flyers come down onto that croc. And then from there, let's rotate to a reverse star. So from star, this toe side croc, the toes will be in the belly, and then rotate that to a reverse star. Since this is new for people, I'm gonna let y'all try that again. We're gonna go from reverse star to croc to star, and from star to a toe side croc to reverse star. And looking at the screens, this is one we'll have questions about afterwards. Cool. Cool. We'll all meet in a reverse star. Coming out of quarantine strong. All right, from reverse star, let's stand on the base's hamstring. So flyers pike down. And then Chris and Sam asked me to be nice and cruel again. And so, yeah, let's do it. Let's go from standing on hamstrings to star. This is that one that's really weird that we played with last week where the flyer will take a hand-to-hand grip on the outside of the base's leg and twist and then jut those hips forward as they try to arc back into stars. If you don't make it, don't worry about it. This one's weird as all hell. Make sure that those shoulders are safe and we're not pulling on the flyer's arms and pushing into their shoulders at the same time. We want to make sure that we're doing that only from a place of stability for the flyer's shoulders. So if it doesn't get there, don't worry about it. You can ask questions later. We'll review it again. Nice. As awkward as it looks for everyone, that also looks appropriate. So well done, everyone. Keeping the awkward appropriate. Aiden and Nika, very creative solutions. It's not what we're looking for, but I'm into it. Good rollout. All right, so we meet in a star. Keep those smiles big, everyone. That's a funky one. I hope everyone is cursing my name. That's good, Chris. I hope those middle fingers are for me. Ding! All right. So from star, might as well continue to get strong in those tuck sits. So let's look at a tuck sit. And in this tuck sit, let's just look at some pendulum swings. So let's just see if we can bring the hips on either side of the wrist, back and forward a few times. Get that pendulum swing nice and strong. And then when you get a good enough swing up, bases are going to catch the sacrum, back plank. Bases don't do this surprising your flyer. Flyers, bases, please everyone know which attempt will bring the feet to the sacrum so that we don't kip our flyers off our feet. From there, we'll reach all the way up overhead and do a fireball, which is a baby hand-to-hand to a tuck sit to a back plank. And as always, we'll do that in both directions. So once you hit one of your back planks, just underhand grip and do it in reverse, where we will go from back plank to tuck sit to a baby hand-to-hand to a back plank. Athena, I like that you're trying to work in that pike. Nice work. Excellent, 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 excellent. Good efforts, everyone. Okay, sure, we can do that. All right. So let's go from a back plank Sorry, I got distracted by a dog flying. Let's go from back plank to a shoulder stand. Back plank to shoulder stand, and then shoulder stand to biceps in feet. Biceps in feet are going to come through the base's legs to a reverse back plank on hands. And then let's reverse that. Let's just go right reverse where we came from. Flyers will bring arms out to a T. Bases will bring feet to biceps. And back up to biceps in feet. Melissa Bernard, that was different, but still nice work, just different. And then let's try that again, but this time we'll go full circle. So we will go from biceps and feet, coming through the base's legs to a reverse back plank on hands. And then this time, the arms are going to, flyers will bring the arms out, but you're going to externally rotate those arms. And then bases, you'll bring your toes to the biceps, and the flyer will flip onto the feet backwards rather than going forward. And again, don't worry, if that doesn't make sense, we'll go over it here in just a minute. We're almost done with the flow. Yeah, don't worry, Melissa, we're gonna do a bunch of things again. So from here, we're in biceps stand, and I don't know why you're not still in bicep stand line. And then as we come through this time, flyers, I want you to bring just one leg through. As that leg comes through, bases, you're going to take that leg and you're going to then rotate this to a reverse outside star on hands, similar to what we've been playing with in thread the needle. And you're going to use that as a dismount straight to the flyer's feet that they get to step out of. Banana peel on the floor. So Chris is a little sweaty. I imagine he's the only one.
If Chris is sweaty, the rest of us are drowning.
That's good. I actually am seeing a little bit of stress on some people's faces. It looks like we hit a little bit of an edge here. So good. This is an advanced class. We want to look at that edge, and it's how we approach it and how we maneuver from that edge that is most important. So the stresses that we're feeling, I want us to take a moment and just have a nice strong inhale and a nice maybe dissociative a little bit exhale where we just let it go. Don't attach ourselves to whatever those struggles were. We will work through some of those struggles maybe a bit more intelligently or a bit more intentionally, but let's not worry too much about execution here. Generally speaking, in these advanced classes, the design is that it's supposed to not work out well in some of what we do, so that we are looking at that opportunity for growth as we continue this. And even some weeks, we come into this and we feel really strong and well calibrated, and sometimes that works out really well and we're like killing it. And then the next weeks, the same exact exercises are going to be really challenging for us. And so I don't judge the progress of any student or myself based on any particular execution in a single week. I look over a much longer period of time. And so I invite all of us to do that, is just look at this over a longer period of time and not worry about what happened on that one attempt when things were a little bit funky. If something feels, of course, injurious or that it could lead toward injurious movements, then yes, let's address them, but not spend too much time worrying about all of the details, as there are plenty. So there's a few things that we should look at. We can look at standing on hamstrings, going back to star again.
Swan dive. Star to reverse.
starter reverse front plank we can look at, and then we can look at going from croc to a star, and that toe side croc to a reverse star. So those are the things that that we saw on this end. Anything to add to that list? I'm not sure if we'll get to all of it, but if anyone has questions, it's just good to at least ask the question whether or not we get to look in detail on all of it. Yeah, Kayvon and Erica.
I don't know if you already said this, but the back plank, when we reversed it through the bicep stand, back to back plank on hands, I think.
Okay, yeah, to do it the backwards way that goes full circle. Yep, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that one's funky. So cool. All right. Anything else? Okay, great. So let's take a look at some of these things. Actually, let's take a look at that one and going from star to reverse front plank back to star. We'll look at those two together because the star to reverse front plank to star is just a little bit of a modification and refinement, and then the other one will need at least some practice for just about everyone. So I'll fly the star reverse front plank star, and then do you want to do that one or you want me to do it? Okay. So from star to reverse front plank, I start off by looking through the base's legs so that I have some positive weight in the arms, and I am presenting the hips forward but keeping the heels and the feet lifted well. And the important thing in that is that if I'm so far back on the base's heel that I feel no pressure in the arms, this feels like I could kiss the ground in an unpleasant way over here. And so it is important that we do understand where we are on the foot and make sure that we're not feeling too close to the heel that we feel like we're going to lose the power in the arms to support us during this transition. So we press into the arms, present the hips, and come down. On the way back, we want to try to do the same. The first thing we want to do is try to get the weight in the arms. So if we try to move the feet and the arms are straight out here, it's unlikely to go smoothly. So I bend my elbows a bit as Chris is bringing the hips over his head just slightly. As soon as connection is made with the shoulder, I'm starting to arch as I push into the arms, and that way I can try to keep my legs together. Many of us are getting to this place here, and there's a collapse that happens, and then a foot to the shoulder, and then we end up splitting our legs, and we end up essentially going through a modified, what would that be? Like a modified straddle bat. And so we don't want it to be a straddle bat. We want this to be something that is unified, that really goes from this plank position into the inversion unified. Now, when I drop that leg to do straddle bat, we do create a decent amount of stability and predictability for that stability in this movement. And if that's where you feel safe, please keep doing that. But if you feel that you are secure in a plank position, we do want you to start to really try to keep those legs together, make sure that we can get some weight into the arms so that we can use them to help press as we're moving into, as we're moving the feet into the air. Make sense? Yes, Callan?
Where is the flyer shoulders, did you say? Is it closer to the heel or toe side for that?
I'm always keeping the flyer shoulders, except for in very rare occasions. I want the flyer shoulders right about here.
Okay.
On the foot.
And like we were saying, that the flyer's weight shifts this way.
Oh, yeah. So, and because the weight is here, I'm already toward the edge of the heel. And so I just want to make sure that I'm not then going further toward the heel as I'm moving away from the base going down. That's where we do want to make sure that some of the weight moves back into the arms just so that I don't fall off the base's heel, because that's my face as a flyer that is vulnerable to the ground. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Because I don't really want to demo it. But it's really scary looking. I can demo it.
No.
I just bring my feet down. But then let's take a look at Erica was talking about going from the bicep stand to the reverse back plank on hands, and then going backwards back up into the biceps and feet. And there's a few things that we want to look at, actually. First of all, I'll use my arm, is that we're looking for the base to bring the feet about here. And so we don't want to be in the middle. We want to be right where the deltoid and the triceps meet. That's going to be the landmark for where the base is going to bring the feet. And you're just bringing the toes there, right? Just the heels. Oh, it's just the heels. Okay. So heels, and then this one rotates toward the toes. So when you're watching this demonstration, those connection points are precise. So as this transition people are quite familiar with, as we go back, it is the toes. All right, listen to the old man in the room, it's the toes. And then that then gets to rotate toward the heel as it goes across the biceps, which is why we go all the way to the deltoid, because you see, even as that rolls, that goes all the way to the elbow crease. And if not, then we're going to end up on the forearms, which is not going to have the same grip stability. So we want to start off at the tricep deltoid connection and rotate toward the elbow in the feet as that happens. Let's take a look at it again. And then as the flyer is going back up into that, Kayvon and really everyone, the base is going to do a ton to help the flyer by walking from the hips up to the shoulders as this continues to invert. And see, that is up a little bit low, a bit on the forearms, and that happens all the time. And so this, over a period of calibration, is going to continue to encourage us to be really precise with where those toes go, so that we can predict two things: the circumference of the flyer's arm that we have to get around, and the length of the base's feet that we have to go down. And those two things together, when we get them aligned well, are going to end up right in that bicep stand. Yeah, Chantal.
We rotate that 90 degrees and show it again.
Absolutely.
Like, face his head towards us.
Also, if your base is really sweaty, you're going to end up in the elbow pit quite a bit more, so feel free to talk it up.
So as a flyer here, I'm putting my arms out to the side, palms up. Once I make connection here, I'm letting the base help me get back a little. I'm grabbing whatever I can here, which is the back of the base's ankles at the moment. And then as I rotate, I can adjust my grip.
Yeah, it's quite a patience game for the flyer, because we do just, we wait. We have this connection point, and then it's not until we start to go into the inversion that we're going to have the ability to grip onto the legs. And so we don't want to try to fight that. That's where it's also likely to slip down into that elbow pit. So patience, 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 and then press the hell out of it. Any questions? All right, so we'll play with those two things. We're going from star to reverse front plank back to star. We're going to go from a bicep stand to reverse back plank on hands, back up to the bicep stand. Let us know if you have questions, or if you'd like to see anything again from any of the angles, or if you would like us to watch you. Give it a shot. 3, 2, 1. We're going to look next at going from a reverse star to a croc. Looked really not so bad, but going from this croc back up to a regular star, that we want to take a look at. I want to base this. I have to watch this thing soon. Let's actually go this way.
Starting in reverse.
Starting, yeah, we can start in reverse star. Why not? So from reverse star, flyer gets to choose which bicep they want to go to for croc. So they shift onto one side. We make a connection biceps to foot, and then we lower that to a croc. As that happens, I'm going to then keep the foot connected to the shoulder, and I'm going to take a hand-to-hand grip, and then I'm going to bring the foot to the new shoulder. And in this moment here, even while this is connected, we can take this grip. And as we do that, we can then push up and transition from what was the croc, because the flyer is already moving into an inversion there. And so the weight comes off of the arm, where we can take and grip as we press. Let's come down from there. Let's take a look at that one more time. We're going to see if we can not only give support, but start to make transition while that support is being given. So we make connection with the first hand, shoulder to foot, and then we press and grip switch at the same time. Is that angle a good visual cue? Okay, cool. If this turns into a pull, it's very likely that the flyer's face is going to come closer to the ground faster. And there's no need to pull in this one, so we do want to make sure that everything is done through a push. I'm taking extra time. I don't need to keep that foot connected to the shoulder until the hand is gripped. I don't need to have the other hand-to-hand grip established before the shoulder and foot connection are established as weight bearing, but we're looking at spreading out the amount of time that we are connected to each other with overlap on either side of these things, and so that there's this redundancy of stability and support on both sides. Even if it's not physically required, there's a sense of comfort that's going to come from it that is going to give us more, it has the potential to give us greater bravery to go through these things a little bit longer. So if we're constantly taking away supports from our partners and connections from our partners and it feels unstable, it's not likely to get easier. And so we want to see if we can have these connection points without them distracting from the actual balance. Can we create the redundancy, make it useful, and then move into the transition? Does that work for everyone? Good. Even if you're thumbs upping me just to appease me, I believe you. So now you prove it. Give it a shot, going from that croc to that star. 3, 2, 1. So it's funky, and probably the greatest funky part about it is that it really can cut into the top of the forearm if we put weight into it too soon. And if the base is extending that leg before we have a grip on that on the hand-to-hands, it can feel really difficult to get that second grip in the hand-to-hand. And that's one of the reasons why I really like to establish it early, is so that I'm not tearing into my flyer's arm for it. And flyers, we're gonna have to forgive our bases just a little bit because they don't fucking get it. They can't feel that challenge that is happening in that elbow crease when they're pressing before that connection is made. And so flyers, our responsibility is to educate our bases on these things. They're not going to get better if we take it. And so it is our job to say, hey, don't extend that leg yet. Actually, let's go backwards, or even just saying down and say, let's try again and see if we can maintain, keep your leg lower until we have that hand-to-hand connected, and then let's try to extend after that. And I will have a base come down 300 times to get the technique comfortable and safe for me, particularly when it gets into connective tissue, before I'm going to just let it happen for the sake of getting through a trick. So do your bases a favor and don't let them get away with it, right? 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 Good, good. Bases, we should be seeking this information from flyers also. From there, we're going to look at going from we just started in the star. So we're going to go from star, we're going to step down to this funky toe side croc, and then from there, it's not so bad getting back to the reverse star. So from star, which way do you want to go?
So to continue the rotation, it's the same bicep arm for the flyer.
So I internally rotate my foot slightly. Here I'm going to let the flyer hold on to the calf, and I'm going to bend the knee that's on the shoulder, internally rotating as the flyer is also rotating onto the toe side croc. From there, again, redundancy, that we switch the hand grip, and at the same time the foot is moving to the shoulder. From there, I'm following the flyer as they bring the hips high. I'm going to then extend as that stack is happening and move to a reverse star. Let's do that again.
Jay, Danielle?
Could we see that from sideways?
Yeah.
How come you go to reverse in inside croc instead of just regular croc?
For fun.
It's the way that it was written.
This side or the other side? I don't know. For those of you who aren't super calibrated in toe side crocs, it feels significantly more comfortable the closer the flyer's arm is to the base's heel rather than on their toes here.
Again, we don't need to let go of this top arm. We're going to just transition it to a reverse hand-to-hand grip. And then press to reverse star. I'll turn 180 and do it again. Thank you. I'm keeping my feet very soft here so that I'm not jamming into the flyer's abdominals or arms, switching the hand-to-hand grip to reverse hand-to-hand grip as we press back into our reverse star. And most of the time as a base, I have one hand free. There's a couple of times that I might be using that hand. But with that free hand, I am constantly supporting my own legs as a base to maintain greater stability for the flyer. The more that a flyer feels unstable because of my instability, the more they're going to try to balance on top of me, which is just going to reverberate right down my leg line. So bases, as a general rule, this is a great opportunity, but throughout our practice, anytime that I can just stabilize myself with my own arm, take that opportunity, bases. It will serve you long term. Does that feel clear? Yeah, Elsa?
Yeah, I have a flexibility challenge getting my elbow like past the side of my body so that I can put my torso on it, and it seems like it's even more difficult with this one not having the heel to land on. So any suggestions on like getting that to happen?
You know, there's two ways that we can really approach this. Is that we have the upper body and the lower body. Upper body is working at bringing the elbow across, but lower body is looking at rotation onto that elbow. And so what I'll say is approach this problem from two angles, from the bottom and the top, that both are moving toward each other, and don't let the hips ignore that process. Don't think that it's just the arm coming in. Really let the hips rotate over the arm as the arm is rotating under the hips, both at the same time. Anything else? And also, yeah, it can be really, you know, challenging, and you might fumble to the ground a couple of times, hop back in, and eventually you'll fumble through it. All right, give it a shot. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're going to look at what we were playing with last week, which was this piece called Thread the Needle. It started off in that asymmetrical. One was a biceps and foot, the other was a hand to knee. That tucked through the base's legs, where the flyer had one leg extended first, and then the base took hold of that leg, extended it out so that they could bring the hand to a reverse outside star on hands. And then that rode into what we call the Olga grip, which was that two-hand hold on the foot. And the base brings the other foot between the flyer's legs. We're just going to get to that point right now. That's the point that we want to review. Pause at, and then we'll look at the next transition, which I know was confusing for a few people last week, and we're going to look to see if we can refine it.
So just Olga hang?
Yeah, to the Olga hang.
Olga hang.
Yeah, this is all just review. So this is a lot of information, but this should be for everyone. Oh, Linnea, Brando, were you here last week? Yes, okay, good. Okay, cool. Oh, John and Tamara, yeah. All right, so pay attention. Other way.
Sorry about that. Let's get into it first.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Yeah, so we're going to get to this position right here. That's the one that we want to be able to get to. And we want that foot really deftly in the crotch so that it is the least amount of effort. I'm going to talk through some things. Largely, I guess this is for the couple of people that were not here last week. Everything else really should just be review. So there's a few points that we're going to look at here. So go nice and slow so that my words can work with y'all. So from this asymmetrical position, the flyer is going to come down, reposition. Yeah. Lost grip, no big deal. So the flyer is going to stag and then bring one leg through. Chris extends that leg and then on the same hip gets to this reverse outside star. Sam is going to get the bottom arm to the base's arm and is using as much connection as possible. And then bases are going to rotate head over head, and flyers are going to split their legs so that the base can bring the foot between legs. And then the flyers are going to reach next to their shoulder for this grip. And this would be something worth doing on the ground right now, all flyers, is just looking over a shoulder and bringing the hands to this position by that shoulder. Look over the shoulder, hold on to that. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Cool. All right, so any questions there? So let's go ahead and review that, give that a shot. We're just going to give this a couple of chances so that we get it back into our bodies, and then we'll look at refining the transition into the shoulder stand after that. Cool? All right, give it a shot in 3, 2, 1. I want to acknowledge that we just gave you like 4 progressions in 1 step. And so if last week was the first time that you tried this and you haven't done it since then, it should be very confusing. If you've been playing with this throughout the week, which it appears that some of you have, yeah, it's looking really nice and smooth and looking like you're getting those connection points more intuitively. What we want to say is that there's a few things that we can do that are just like breaking down pieces of that. The part that most of us are getting caught up in is that rotation from the side star on hands. And so like to do that just on its own, just getting to the side star on hands and not even worrying about the feet coming in bases, but just getting a rotation that feels stable is going to do wonders, because most of what we're seeing is that once that rotation starts, the flyer is feeling unstable, and then the feet are getting confused and the arms are getting confused, and we have 4 limbs that are all trying to move between legs and over shoulder and all these things that are conflicting with each other. But if we just get a nice, solid, stable rotation, those things will feel less hairline balanced. They'll feel less desperate. We'll have time to think about these connection points and the stability of them. So break it down. Do just the reverse outside star on hands and get some rotation and start to increase that rotation, not worrying about anything else. We're going to go back to that, but right now what we're going to do is we're going to shift to the next piece, which is starting to look at how we're going to get from what we call the Olga hang, or Olga grip.
Olga hang.
Sounds weird when I just said it though. I like Olga. I don't want Olga to hang. Anyway, internal issues. From the Olga thing to the shoulder stand. And so what we have is we have this moment where the flyer is going to have the bottom of the foot on the base's foot, and we're going to try to rotate around the circumference of the outside edge of the foot so that we go from the bottom of the foot to the top of the foot without breaking contact. And that seems to be where a lot of people, where I got a lot of questions throughout the week. People were sending me messages and videos, and everyone was generally getting through it, but we were just pressing shoulder stands, all muscle, without quite the fluidity of the technique. And so if we can take it a step back away from some of that muscular energy and see if we can get this into a smoother transition because we're maintaining contact, that's going to be the exercise that we're going to really look at today. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just establish a visual demonstration of what it looks like in partnership. And then we're going to look at it on the ground and see if we can match those two things. So in the air, what we have is foot between the legs and this grip on the foot. And I take, as a base, or sorry, as a flyer, I take the foot to foot grip, and I want to be able to lift my other leg off. Now, actually, I'll do this on the ground. So what tends to happen, and what a lot of people are challenged with, is finding even just how this leg works. most of us are pushing out, and that pushes the base's leg, the foundation, out from under us, which destabilizes us. And then the other one is that a lot of flyers feel like they're pulling that leg in, and then the hamstring, and a little show of hands, how many people just feel like their hamstring cramps really bad? Yeah. So what we want to do between the base and the flyer, and there's a little bit of math that we all individually have to do to help this equation, is we want to make it so that this is pressing down, not pulling in, and not pushing out. And so in order to push down in that position, if the base's leg is really long, it might be that the base has to bend that knee a little bit to give the flyer the leverage down rather than in or out. And so you may have to work a little bit of math there, but if everyone is focused on making sure that the flyer is pressing down, bases, you help accommodate that, okay? Then we have to figure out how we can maintain that contact of what we just did as the other leg is going to start to do some weird shit. So we're in this position here. We're going to ignore the arms because I don't have the ability to hang off of nothing. So I'm pushing down with the one leg, and I bring my other foot just behind my knee. See the foot? It's pointed, but I'm going to flex it so that y'all can see it better. And then I want to take and bring that all the way up and through from behind the knee. So I press down, I tuck under, and then I roll toward my chest as I'm extending that leg up behind me. And so flyers, try that. You know, lie on your back, press the hips up, tuck the foot behind the knee, and then rotate towards your chest and lift that foot in the air.
And for those of you who are confused about where a shoulder stand was when you were in partnership, when you start, think about where you would be facing if you ended in a shoulder stand here, and rotate so that your chest faces that direction.
Okay, so that's one. We're all going to do this again, and watch the difference this time. So last time, I asked for this, and then we went to here. And what happened is that I'm still on the bottom of my foot the whole time, and that's where this tends to get fucked up. And so we have to transition at some point from the bottom of the foot to the top of the foot. And so now we're going to do the same exercise, but as we go along, we're going to rotate over the foot, and we're going to press through the toes rather than through the ball. And so give that a try. You're going to press, tuck around the same way that you just did, and then you're going to roll onto the toes as we extend them. And so you're taking this away from the hamstring and bringing it into the quad at the same time.
Matt, at the air too cool for school.
Oh, the guilt gets you. All right, so it's weird, and it's not going to translate exactly because the tactile sensations that we're going to experience in partnership is not that I get to rest my back on the ground, is not that I get to roll over my shoulders. It's a lot less contact than that. I'm hanging on by my hands, and then I'm going to be supported at the shoulders by the base. But the leg work is all we're focused on in that exercise. And so if you can go back to that at any point that you start to get confused proprioceptively, where you are in space, what rotation, what part of our bodies are connected, go back to that exercise and drill that in. That's going to give you the sensation of what to do with the legs. Then we're going to go into partnership and attempt to do the same thing. I'll do this as slowly as possible. And we're going to look at some of the same things that we were last week, which is the base, looking at internally rotating those arms for the shoulders. And so base establishes, and this is the most important thing, is I got to know that I have something to go into a shoulder stand on. I bring my foot to the heel, I press up, I tuck underneath, and I press through, and I've maintained connection on this foot the entire time. This hand is still connected to this foot, and both can be, and so we have a decent amount of stability in that moment. Make sense? I know it's like this weird magic looking thing, and it is, And then one day you're going to get it and you're going to be like, oh, that wasn't actually nearly as hard as it looked. And that's why it's so fun, is because it really looks weird. And eventually it unfolds into this. But we do need to figure out where we are in space for that to happen. And then the more that we can maintain redundant connections with each other, we invite stability and fluidity into the movement. We'll show it one more time and then let y'all at it. Here we are. Base makes connection, then flyer makes connection to the foot. Tuck underneath, all the way up and over. As I rotate around the foot, stabilizing through the hand to foot connection.
Can you turn like 90 degrees and do it?
Absolutely.
Let's see. So which 90 degrees is she thinking?
Let's do it where the foot that I'm using is facing them.
So much math.
Was that clear? Yes, maybe?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, cool. Give it a shot. See if we can maintain all of those points of connection. Bases internally rotate. Flyers press. 3, 2, 1. Catching up with you, Garrett.
What's happening with that foot? You said that the foot starts at the heel and then you rotate the ankle all the way around?
Yeah. Okay, I'll take a look at that. I got 2 more questions. Let's just see where those cross over. Bernard and Melissa?
Yeah, I'd like to know how can I make the extension and shoulder stand a little easier, from the sense that I feel like I'm pressing most of it. Is there a way I can have my flyer get closer to the foot before I can press her up?
Yeah, okay, we'll take a look at that. And I'm going to base this in a minute to show what it's like to not have a superhero base it also. Davide?
I'm finding a little bit of difficulty to grab a good shoulder stand position with my hand. I feel like I'm too posterior with my hand, and then I'm pressing on that funny bone on top, and it's hurting the flyer a bit.
Okay. All right, so we'll take a look at some of these things. All right, so Kayvon and Erica, Bernard, Melissa, and Davide and Natasha. Let's take a look at some of these things. We got, first of all, this one really looking for Kayvon and Erica, how we can use this foot turning from the heel to the toes as they rotate around. And then I'm looking here at a strong internal rotation. And I'm also thinking about how I can get the base of my palm close to, close to the flyer's neck. Sorry, I was a little behind you there.
Sorry.
Wasn't quite there. Just wanted you to be able to float in the air for a little bit longer. So here I am, and I'm also still going to be thinking about reaching for this shoulder pretty soon. Right now, I'm going to use it to stabilize this leg. Go ahead.
That's what I wanted to figure out. You do one more with your head towards me, Lux?
Yeah. All right. So one thing that I think is important here is that bases are not rigid in their positioning. What's important is the alignment of the parts that are holding the primary weight of the flyer. And so in this moment, it's going to transition into the arms, which means that my legs are flexible to do whatever they need to do to follow my flyer. And so if I keep my legs in this position here, some flyers may be rotating away from that and start to lose stability. But because I am flexible in my legs, in that last attempt, where the flyer is connected to this foot, I brought that all the way across my own midline to follow the movement of my flyer. Whatever feels nice and round to them, I'm just going to follow it and stay supported underneath. So don't get rigid in thinking that you must stay in one position.
And that's super helpful for the flyer, getting their hips over the shoulders.
And getting them oriented in the right direction. So watch the feet and how they can move here.
And you can see the click. Okay, would you? Yeah. So if you watch this one, I'm seeing a lot of flyers. Their hips stay open during the thread the needle portion. If you watch Sam's hips, the base and the flyer are working together to bring her to a pike, which happens to be a shoulder stand pike, at the same moment. So watch Sam's shape there. It's already really piked.
And so you see there's this huge amount of delivery that the base can do to stay underneath the flyer there. Was that something that any other bases started to feel some intuitive support for? A little bit?
Got a few hands.
Okay, good. Give it another try. See what we can do to stay underneath and follow that. And I will say that out of those 3 attempts, 2 of them didn't have the most ideal shoulder stand position, but because I'm following underneath the legs, there's moments where we can make some adjustments in the grip during the rotation. And if it doesn't work out, like it's just going to be a little bit of a funky shoulder stand grip that we can just bring to the ground and then refine just that piece. So give it a shot and see where we can find stability. Second shoulder seems to be the common complication, and I'm sure that there are still others, but let's address a little bit of the second shoulder. And so Chantel had asked about this, and so one thing that I offered was that as the flyer is holding on to this position here, and the one shoulder is connected to, that second shoulder wants to know where the base's arm is that can't reach it yet. And then the flyer very caves the chest in and starts to hollow the front side of the body, and then diagonally brings that shoulder across to that second arm. And so even just knowing where it is so that the flyer, because we're not looking at it, we're looking at the complete opposite direction. But if I know where it is, I can start to move in the direction of where it's going to be as that happens.
Can I add?
Yeah.
For a lot of folks, it looks like when you're in that really extended position and working with the leg, that it feels a little bit precarious to do that rotation, to present that second shoulder. And it's okay to do that a little earlier and get that second point of support and feel like you have more stability there before going super gung-ho with your foot behind your knee.
And then Patty also offered that she stopped worrying about the second shoulder because Chris brought the foot in close enough to the midline that Patty was able to get even more leverage with the 2 arms on the foot and is able to lift herself enough that the second shoulder has time to float before the hand makes connection to it. Did I say that right, Patty? Yeah, cool. And so if we have that ability to kind of hold ourselves and suspend that animation, even just with the one shoulder, we're transferring the weight that would be shoulder to hand into flyer's hands on the base's feet. And then we can just change where that leverage point is until we find a little bit more proprioceptive attunement to where we're going next. So I commend Chris and Patty for developing these in-between pieces and want to encourage everyone to look at, like, what do I have free that can support, and what do I have that's already connected that can take the place of something that is hard right now to establish connection with. And not just for this piece, but just in general in our acrobatics, that while these things are written a specific way, that's just the way that we wrote them because of, who knows, honestly, a number of reasons. But, and mostly it's like because I'm an asshole and rigid in my ways and want to make things more difficult, and so I write them that way. But when it comes to our actual practice, I encourage people to find solutions that work for you and your partnership. And so every additional piece of support or every redundant or long connection point that we can make, I'm going to applaud and watch as it helps our practice. So into it. Let's see. Nice work. This week, I will say, looked more challenging mentally and emotionally for people than weeks past. And I want to acknowledge that, because most of the time at the end of class, when I blow smoke up your ass and tell you how good it looks that everyone's communicating so well, I'm serious. I'm looking at you and that's what I see. And this week, I feel a bit more fatigued than normal. And I tell you, this week was also more challenging for me. I got some things that are making life a little bit difficult for me. Isolation gets to us at different points, and depending on what's going on in our lives, we're going to hit these things at different points. And sometimes all of us kind of feel it at the same time when the news is crushing us, or our lives, or whatever our situation is affecting us. And it will enter our practices, and it will enter our communication. And in these moments, it's not to run away from them. It is to take some pressure off. And so just because we're in an advanced class doesn't mean we have to do the most advanced things. When we feel these ways, take the time, be patient with ourselves and be patient with each other, and know that next week it won't necessarily be the same struggle as this week. And the week after, this week, if it gets really easy, doesn't mean that the next week will also be really easy. So as these things come, let's not attach ourselves to whatever things are manifesting themselves in our physical practice. And if we feel a little bit off one week and we still decide that we're going to show up to class, do your work hard, but don't blow out your muscles, don't blow out your joints, and don't blow out your communication and your relationships over it. Let it just be one-time things. So I want to acknowledge the challenge that I see. I want to acknowledge the challenge that I feel, and also not let that define us. It's just this moment. Cool? Cool.
Cool.
Thank you all so much. Really great work tonight, and really grateful for the participation of everyone here. Honestly,